It's a decaf. It's a South American blend, and I've been very happy with it. Roasting decafs is different because the beans don't come, they come brown when they're decafed. So it's harder to judge, but it's a good coffee. I think it's one we're going to carry all the time. There's another one that I've got as a decaf that's also a good coffee. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I've been very busy. You'll see the picture. I've been doing house plans for the new house in Vermont. And the house is going to have, the walls are going to be made out of SIPs, which are those panels that I showed you before, which have the OSB, and then foam. And in this particular case, they're going to be 8 1/4 inches thick. And that's going to give us an R37 wall. And the ceiling upstairs will be R60. So the house is about 1,456 square feet altogether, with basically 1 bedroom, an office, bathroom, utility room, mudroom, kitchen, and a coffee section to roast and everything else. So that whole thing, the bottom will be a slab, and in that slab, and that's why I had to be doing this today, because I had to send it to the radiant heating people, because I need them to put out a price for me, a quote of what I'm going to need. And we've used their stuff before. And what you do, if you're not familiar with that, is you make like you're making a slab, which is just concrete. But before you do that, you tamp it all down, you put plastic down, then you put 2 inches of rigid foam on top of that. And then you put some steel in there, that kind of stuff. But basically, you're making these loops with this tubing, and the tubing comes back, and they come back in and hit a water heater. And basically, it just circulates hot water into the concrete. When you pour the concrete on top of that, the tubes are inside that. And what happens is that heat radiates up through the concrete, and hopefully minimal amount goes down through. But some will, which isn't a bad thing with a slab, because you really don't want it heaving and hoeing. If it can't freeze underneath, it can't heave and hoe. Like in a garage, I'm sure you've seen unheated garages, that over time the concrete tends to crack because there's nothing under there to keep it warm. So the car going on it or whatever ends up cracking the concrete. In this particular case, the heat goes everywhere on the floor. So every room is basically the same. You can, if you've got a bigger house, you could make zones for different rooms and stuff. But this is with that, it's a very efficient way to do it. There's also a special water heater, which is not cheap. I think the water heater to do this is like $3,600. It's all stainless steel. It's 98% efficient. And this house, given its size, I don't think it should probably cost us more than, it runs on propane, by the way. Shouldn't cost us more than somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 a year at the most to heat this house. And don't forget, this is a climate where they just had 31 inches of snow last Friday. So it's not exactly Florida there. But it should be an easy, it is an easy system once you get it set up, because it's just when the temperature thermometer on the wall says it needs water, it circulates hot water. When the temperature in the house comes up to that, it shuts off. Very simple to use. But this whole house is, you know, the bottom slab part will take some work, because you've got to get all your plumbing in right, border lines that'll go underneath, different things. It's not like when you build a house that has a basement, you just build the top across and then you can shoot everything up through later, your bathroom drains and whatnot. So we've been planning out windows and where things go, as you can see in that photo. And like I said, it's not a big house, but at this point in our lives, it's Sid and I, okay? The grandkids are real close by, but they'll be able to come up. Sid's got a really good kitchen. It'll be really well lit because there's a lot of windows and everything else. There's enough room to start the coffee. Hopefully coffee goes well, and then I can put in the back, we have plenty of land. I can put a whole nother building up there if the roasting goes well and we need to expand all that. That's not a problem. I've designed it so on the bedroom side I can put in the future something like a 16 by 16 3-season porch type thing. And then on the coffee roasting side, excuse me, if all goes well, then we'll put a garage on that side. And it's all been designed so that we get the solar gain as well, given how the house is oriented. And also the way it's oriented too is the way the wind and the snow blows in the winter will avoid a lot of it. It'll go right past the house, which is a plus. It's still going to be a problem with the driveway, and if I had unlimited funds, I'd put in radiant heat, but the driveway is probably 800 or 900 feet long, so that would be kind of expensive. But it would be nice. Why is it the snow never sticks on Todd and Sid's driveway? But that would be pretty pricey.
Solar run, maybe.
Yeah, maybe solar. Which is another one with the hot water. In the future, I probably will look into putting some solar panels out there to do the hot water heat for the radiant, because that's a relatively easy system. It just has to have some type of circulating and that kind of thing, and that will even cut the propane costs down even farther. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Did I roast? Yeah, I roasted coffee today too. Not this one. This one's 5 days old. I like to check them along the way to see how they are. And on that coffee note, I had a guy, a friend of ours, I give him coffees to test, and I don't tell him what they are. I tell him to brew it up, see what you think, go from there. And so he wrote me this afternoon, and he said, good, nice flavor, but it wasn't anything spectacular. So I said to him, you didn't taste any berries in there? He said, no, I didn't. So another guy, he says, oh, I just gave Larry a cup. First word out of his mouth, berries. So I'm like, oh, good. Because, a lot of times, most of the time, I brew it with a pour-over method. They're using a drip method. So it's nice to hear that no matter how you brew it, you can still get the taste. He has a little bit of a taste problem. But, oh, and before I forget again, remember those must-need things for coffee? Well, one of those that I forgot totally about is water. Water is a big one, because if you have like city water and it's crappy water and it's chlorinated and it's got everything known to man in it, you're not going to get a good cup of coffee. I'm sorry. Either buy bottled water or get a filter for your sink or whatever, because water quality is one of those things that will, of course, affect how that coffee is going to taste. And, it's water affects, if you have like a soda in the US and that same company, which produces them here, uses the water here, you can immediately taste, why is this different? Because they're using the water from here, and it's not the same water as in the US, and it imparts a whole different flavor.
You can taste that in Dunkin' Donuts too.
Yeah, when you go to like the Nassau airport, you can taste in that coffee there, or I can, a difference between that one and maybe the one you had in New York or Boston or wherever it was when you got on the plane, even though it wasn't that far away. So water's a big factor. Are we having a seaplane land? Or somebody's buzzing the key? Yeah, he's pretty low. All right. So anyway, that's what we've been doing today. We might get a beach walk in. I'm not sure. I still have some accounting paperwork that has to be done, but the plans are all set, which you're probably thinking, wait a minute, didn't you put the building permit in before? How'd you put a building permit in if the plans weren't set? It's Burke, Vermont. it was like, I know all the people and everything else, and it was like, oh yeah, and they thought that was fine.
They thought it was very detailed.
They thought it was very detailed. So I don't know whether they're used to getting building plans on napkins or what. I mean, but it wasn't all that detailed. It wasn't this plan. It was just like, here's the box. It's this many square feet. It's this far from this border to that border. The septic's going to be here. The well's going to be there. And they were like, oh, that's fine. So anyway, that's been today.